In 2007, we saw the birth of a new way of transmitting entertainment, which would come to define the next two full decades of media and transform the way we consume entertainment forever. When Netflix released and quickly began to cultivate a library of shows through gaining redistribution rights for Disney shows and movies, Lifetime, HBO, and some of the world's greatest entertainment companies, and eventually in 2011, began to produce their own batch of original content, they took full control of a streaming market which had reshaped the landscape of television and film for the entire generation. What really rose Netflix to prominence over the dominance of cable television, and what enticed these TV companies and these entertainment conglomerates to trust Netflix with their properties and with their franchises, was their release model. And it's something that helped them come blow to blow with the DirecTVs and the Comcasts of the world by introducing on-demand binging. The idea that through Netflix you wouldn't have to wait week to week to continue the stories of original shows and licensed media to catch the next episode or part. You wouldn't have to wait until it was finally showing on FX to see their favorite movie or see a rewatch of your favorite show over the course of a week. It was now all available on X Friday, which meant that as soon as school got out, when the shifts were over, and when the week was done, it's time to Netflix and chill for all 10, 12, or 24 episodes. And for an American society which was becoming increasingly busier and faster, with media being consumed and produced at the highest rate that it ever had in human history, this soon became the counter to modern television. Capitalizing on the people's desire for more, and more, Netflix would now be able to give that to you at any time. But 12 years later, I think looking at the way Netflix revolutionized entertainment brings about a bigger conversation. Even after the downfall of cable television, the explosion of streaming services, and the complete reshaping of various companies and franchises, in 2023, Netflix is in a bit of a rut. With the constant canceling and rescheduling and just forgetting of new shows and franchises, to spending so much money to create so many new shows and franchises running out ever so fastly, and with Netflix losing its market share day by day and constantly losing subscribers to its platform, I'd like to argue that it's Netflix's very patented binging model, which could be its potential downfall, as well be the reason why Netflix properties will never see the prosperity that it seemed like they were once promised for. Netflix introduced binging to the world during an era of a rapidly growing internet culture feeling slowed down and bogged down by the week-to-week formulas of some of TV's greatest shows and Lost, The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and so many more. With an increasingly busier population and more people wishing for a cable alternative in general due to costs, a new way to quickly watch your favorite shows all on the same platform in one weekend's time was just what people needed. The problem comes in the fact that with this model, in order to truly satisfy the ever-escalating wants of society, Netflix also needed to constantly offer new material and media for customers, which eventually has led to back-to-back years of Netflix feeling the need to produce 788 and 891 originals in 2021 and 2022, respectively. And respectfully, that makes no fucking sense. Netflix has essentially settled and continued to force themselves into the business content model of basically throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks. Because the cost for that much production, marketing, writing, just for in-house projects is about $17 billion annually. Yeah. So needless to say, this model isn't sustainable, but Netflix doesn't even need it to be sustainable if something were to actually stick to the metaphorical wall. The problem is that despite Netflix's successes, nothing has stuck that could lead them to be able to decrease the sheer amount of production they're doing because of one thing that all Netflix shows will forever lack, and that is... In media, different forms of content have different life cycles, as a lot of you may know. Sports games usually run you a good 100 to maybe 200 hours before you're really pushing it with the repetitiveness. Movies usually peak in the first opening weekend, sometimes in the first opening week, and they usually start to close up shop in theaters after about 10 weeks. Shows, it varies because for the most part it completely depends on the type of release schedule that you are releasing said show, because sometimes the difference between a 12 to 24 episode releasing on a week to week format compared to a binging all in one format can be the difference between media immortality and just another show. This isn't to say that binge shows can't be talked about after a week, but the hype train for these shows runs out of gas much sooner due to the lack of content being added to the cultural conversations about the media. Why would I talk about on my blog 2 weeks after release when it's over if it's been over? There's no theorizing, no mysteries, no up and coming news or episodes, so the buzz around it is completely dead on arrival. Meaning that Netflix also has a harder time selling merchandise and products on said properties, because if it's not someone's favorite and they don't go to the store to see that Stranger Things had specifically on the last weekend in May when the show airs, then it's not on my mind by the middle of June, because now Netflix is pushing me to binge 5 more series, 2 more movies, and buy an Umbrella Academy shirt. The life cycles of these shows is what limits Netflix to stop spending and just be able to live off of their franchises like a HBO Max, a Disney Plus, and even a Amazon Prime recently. It creates a cycle of Netflix constantly making new shows and promoting them, hoping that one of them pops off. But when your subscriber size shrinks and your market share decreases and your investors are starting to push you to make more decisions that will increase revenue, just sheer revenue, not even profit, because they're not making a profit. And then you have to deal with you operating at a deficit, and then you have to start cutting your losses and just... In 2021 and 2022, Netflix canceled 23 series that were either in production or had just recently premiered in said 2021 and 2022. And I know this doesn't seem like a lot compared to the astronomical numbers I mentioned they debuted in those years earlier, but when we remember that Netflix has about 2/3 of its library dedicated to movies, then we can apply the same logic to their originals in 2021 and oh my God. Then we can apply the same logic to their originals in 2021 and 22 and realize that out of the 1/3 of Netflix originals that were most likely television shows, almost 5% of those shows have already been officially canceled. And then when we add the context that about 1/3 of all shows don't get officially canned ever, they're just discontinued, and we realize that almost 40% of Netflix original shows see thousands of dollars be put into a group of people, a project, and a vision that never really gets the chance to even prove itself. And then once we look deeper into the actual victims of Netflix's cancel hammer, we realize that a lot of these fallen shows are developing small, active, budding, passionate communities, oftentimes just falling victim to the budget cutting argument, or even worse, tax write-offs. It's inevitable for shows to be canceled, of course, but I believe that the only reason why Netflix has ended up being so volatile to some of its potential franchises is because of the sheer amount of bullshit that they are producing, in the hopes that something can compete with Invincible, The Boys, Andor and WandaVision, The Last of Us, hell, even the iCarly reboot, Ted Lasso, and that can just last longer than the sparks and flames of Squid Games and Arcane. To be honest though, I think that's it. I think that's all I have today. As we see, Netflix is just in a perennial cycle of making and overproducing on shows and projects, hoping that one of them, falls through and pops off or whatever the fuck, and it's just not working, to be honest, and they just have to change a lot of things. I'm not subscribed to Netflix. I hope y'all aren't either. I think I told y'all that to unsubscribe a long time ago. Hopefully you listen to me, because now I'm done talking and I'm just gonna go to sleep now. Thank y'all for watching the video. I hope y'all have a good day. It's been a great Friday for me. Actually it's Saturday. I just lied. Sorry guys, I just got done taking a final. I'm pretty sleepy though, so just gonna trying to turn in for the day.